Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 142 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 19 through 21 of the book of Jeremiah. Chapter 19 opens up talking about a broken vessel, a broken jar, and this is likened unto his people because we are vessels that house his spirit, right? That also house, the righteousness of his laws. They're being written on our heart right now, but all of it is not written on the inside as of yet, right? And so right now I'm just going to open up and start reading from verse 1 and then kind of go deeper into these things and you'll see what I'm talking about. So let's just read. It says, "Thus says Yahuah, go and buy a potter's earthen bottle or a jug or a vessel," right? And it says, "And take some of the elders of the people and some of the elders of the priest. Then go out in the valley of Ben Hinnom, which is by the entry of the postern gate, and proclaim there the words that I will tell to you, and say, Hear the word of Yahuah, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus says Yahuah Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel. I will bring such disaster upon this place, at which whoever hears of it, his ears shall tingle, because they have forsaken me and have profaned this place," right? Profane meaning defiled it, "by making offerings in it to other gods, whom neither they nor their fathers nor kings of Judah have known, and have filled this place with the blood of the innocent." Now I have to stop and pause and just deliberate a little bit more in this portion right here. Now, if you go back through Leviticus chapters 1 through 9, you see that when they were building up the tabernacle, they could not do any services unto Yah until everything had been purified by blood. And whose blood was not tainted? The animals, right? Because mankind is the one who sinned against his laws, right? So Yahuah allowed the people to use innocent animals in the blood, right? Because the life is in the blood. So he allowed them to use the blood of the innocent animals to cleanse the tabernacle, to cleanse all of the utensils, to cleanse the altar, to cleanse and purify the lavand, the basin, right? To wash your hands, everything. And he's saying, you have defiled this place by offering up other sacrifices to other gods. He goes, in my own house you have done this. So you've made it a curse again, right? You have to remember that the land of inheritance to the children of Israel was formerly inhabited by Canaanites, and Canaanites defiled that land by offering up sacrifices to demons, right? And so everything had to be cleansed and purified by blood, right? And so he's saying to the children of Israel, because you have done the same things as the Canaanites have done, you have brought back a curse upon this land. You have defiled my holy place. So Yahuah is essentially saying the people who I have brought in to be a blessing and to do these holy services unto me, right? I caused you to cleanse this place, but now you have defiled it and you've done the same works as the Canaanites. So now I have to clean my house, and I have to clean my house by those who have transgressed me. And he's saying, my own people, I must move out of the territory because you have defiled everything in this place, including yourselves. All right. So now we can go back to verse 5 and see what else he has to say about those who are guilty. He says, "And you have built up high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it come to my mind. Therefore, surely the days are coming, says Yahuah, when this place shall no more be called Topheth in the valley of Ben Hinnom, but the valley of slaughter." Now, you also have to remember about the Mosaic law. It was life for life. Now, if someone killed someone, right, innocent blood, and they were found out to be guilty, then they themselves had to be killed to wipe out the blood guilt. And so he is saying, in order to cover the blood guilt that's in the land, he is going to use these people, the inhabitants, to cover the innocent lives that they took. Life for life. Now let's get back to verse 8. And when I read through this, he is going to conclude about the earthen vessel, the jugs that he was talking about in verse 1. He's going to continue. So it says, "I will make this city desolate and a hissing. Everyone who passes by will be astonished and hiss because of the wounds. I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters. And it says, and everyone will eat the flesh of the friend in the siege and distress with their enemies, and those who seek their lives will distress them. Then you will break the bottle in the sight of them that go with you and say to them, thus says Yahuah Sabaoth, even so I will break this people and this city as one breaks a potter's vessel that cannot be made whole again. They will bury them in Topheth, and until then there is no other place to bury them. Thus I will do to this place and to the inhabitants, says Yahuah, even make this city as Topheth. So Topheth is not going to be called Topheth anymore. It's going to be called the Valley of Slaughter. The whole city of Jerusalem is going to be called the Valley of Slaughter. Why? Because they took the blessing, the fruit of the womb, right? Children are arrows to be shot to the kingdom of darkness, right? Children are supposed to hear the laws of Elohim and walk in those paths so that their ways might prosper, so that they might bring more light, right? Shed more the light of the kingdom of Yahuah Elohim here upon the earth. But instead, they have taken the fruit of the womb, the gift from the Father, and offered it up to demons. He says, you have taken innocent life, and so now I'm going to take your life, and I'm going to cleanse the land with your blood. To cleanse the place of the blood guilt. Verse 14, then Jeremiah came from Topheth, where Yahuah had sent him to prophesy, and he stood in the court of the house of Yahuah and said to all of the people, thus says Yahuah Sabaoth, the Elohim of Israel, I am about to bring upon this city and upon her towns all of the disaster that I have pronounced against it, because they have stiffened their necks so that they might not heed my words. Now we walk into chapter 20. Let's just start reading from verse 1. It says, now Pashur, the son of Immer, the priest, who was also chief officer in the house of Yahuah, heard that Jeremiah prophesied these things. Then Pashur struck Jeremiah the prophet and put him in the stocks that were in the upper gate of Benjamin, which was by the house of Yahuah. On the next day, Pashur brought Jeremiah out of the stocks. Then Jeremiah said to him, Yahuah has not called your name Pashur, but Magar Masabib. Now, Pashur or Pashur, however you say it in Hebrew, I wanted to look up what it meant in Hebrew, and this is what it means. He that extends or multiplies the whole. And it also means whiteness, like purity. And it also means Passover or deliverance, right? And Magor Misabib, hopefully I'm saying it right, it means terror on every side, or fear on every side. So Pashur, he is a priest, right? And a priest is called to cover the brethren. And it says, right, that his original name means to extend or multiply to the whole, right? To the people. But instead, it says that terror on every side will be his name. So let's keep reading after this to see, how this connects right here in verse 4. It says, thus says Yahuah, I will make you a terror to yourself and to all of your friends, and they will fall by the sword of their enemies while your eyes will see it. Thus I will give all of Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will carry them captive into Babylon and will slay them with the sword. Moreover, I will deliver, which was what Pashur's first name was, but it says Yahuah is not calling him the deliverer anymore. He says, I will deliver all of the wealth of the city and all of its produce and all of the precious things and all of the treasures of the kings of Judah. I will give into the hand of their enemies, who will destroy them and take them and carry them to Babylon. You, Pashur, and all who dwell in your house will go into captivity, and you will come to Babylon, and there you will die, and you will be buried there, and all of your friends whom you have prophesied lies to as well. And then Jeremiah cries out to Yahuah, and this is what he says, starting in verse 7. O Yahuah, you have deluded me, and I am deluded. You are stronger than I, and have prevailed. I am held in derision daily, because everyone mocks me. For each time I speak, I cry out, and I cry out violence and devastation, because to me the word of Yahuah has resulted in reproach and derision daily. He's saying, because I speak the truth of your word, I am rejected by men, right? And I am receiving persecution and pain on all sides because of it. And he says, but, right? But if I say I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more of his name, then his word was in my heart as a burning fire shut up in my bones. So he's saying, if I kept the truth and if I held it, right, and I did not speak of it, he says it would destroy me from the inside out. And that's the truth. When he gives you his truth and he tells you to speak it, right, and you don't, it starts to consume you from the inside out. You yourself, you know it is a sin if you know the truth, but you withhold it, right? And so that is essentially what Jeremiah is saying. He's like, look, I have pain from my brethren, but if I did not speak this truth and withheld it, right, just to have comfort from then he would be an enemy of Yahuah, right? And who wants that? Nobody wants that. At least nobody here on this Bible study. All right. So let's keep reading in verse 11. And it says, but Yahuah is with me as an awesome, mighty one. Therefore, my persecutors will stumble and they will not prevail. They will be greatly ashamed, for they will not prosper. Their everlasting shame will never be forgotten. O Yahuah Sabaoth, who tests the righteous and sees the mind and the heart. Let me see your vengeance on them, for to you I have presented my cause. Or he's saying, I have presented my case to you. He is presenting his whole life, right? Because he's sacrificing his whole life. We already know that Yahuah told him, do not take a wife and don't have children. He is sacrificing everything to be of service to him. That should testify to us right now. And then at the end of the chapter, Jeremiah has a Job moment. And then he curses the day that he was born. And he says, my mother's womb should have been a grave unto me. Why, did he not die within his mother's womb? And he says, cursed is the one, who gave good news of him being birthed forward, right? And so he is, feeling grief. He's feeling grief because he has no companions. He's completely set apart and no one is his friend. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have children. He has no one. All he has is Yahuah, right? And so it hurts. It hurts when we feel alone in this walk. And Jeremiah is crying out, like I'm saying, having this Job moment, right? Where everyone who is supposed to be on his side, even his father's house, everyone in his father's house has turned their backs against him. So he feels alone in this moment and he's crying out because of it. Chapter 21 opens up, and now that we see King Zedekiah is, stepping in the mix, and I will show you the chapters where you can go back and review who he is. But in this time where Zedekiah is the king, he sends messengers to Jeremiah to see about, this report. What is he going to do? Is he going to release them from the grips of King Babylon? And this is how it reads out. And so King Zedekiah is requiring a word from Jeremiah. And it says, please inquire of Yahuah for us, for Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, is making war against us. Perhaps Yahuah will deal with us according to all his wondrous works, so that the enemy withdraws from us. Then Jeremiah said to them, so Jeremiah is telling the messengers that came from King Zedekiah to go back and give them this word right here. Thus you shall say to Zedekiah, thus says Yahuah, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, with which you fight against the king of Babylon and against the Chaldeans who besiege you outside of the walls, and I will assemble them into the midst of this city. I myself will fight against you with an outstretched hand and with a strong arm, even in anger and in fury and in great wrath. Verse 6, I will strike the inhabitants of this city, both man and beast. They will die of a great pestilence. Afterwards, says Yahuah, I will deliver King Zedekiah of Judah and his servants and the people, and such as are left in this city, from the pestilence, from the sword, and from the famine, into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of their enemies, into the hand of those who seek their life. And he will strike them with the edge of the sword. He will not spare them, nor have pity or mercy. And so now I want to take you back to 2 Kings, where you can see who Zedekiah is. I'm going to read from 2 Kings chapter 24, starting in verse 18. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did evil in the sight of Yahuah, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. Because of the anger of Yahuah, this happened in Jerusalem and Judah until he threw them out of his presence. But Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So Zedekiah, he tried to flee from the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. And in a result of that, right here, we're going to go down to 2 Kings chapter 25 and starting from verse 5, it says, Then the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All of the army deserted him, so that they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon. And it says, They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes and put out the eyes of Zedekiah. They bound him with bronze fetters and brought him to Babylon. So that's who Zedekiah was, right? And because he fled from the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, we have to understand that Yahuah was using Nebuchadnezzar to discipline his people. And this is what Yahuah says, right? Right here in verse 8, we're going back to chapter 21 of Jeremiah. He says, To this people you shall say, Thus says Yahuah, See, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. So now they have a choice before them again. He says, He who abides in the city will die by the sword and by famine and by pestilence. But he who goes out and falls away to the Chaldeans who besiege you, he will live, and his life will be as a prize unto him. So he says, those who do not fight my discipline, which is Nebuchadnezzar, he says, you will go to Babylon and you will have your lives. You won't have anything else, but at least you will have your lives. Let's keep reading in verse 10. For I have set my face against this city for disaster and not for good, says Yahuah. It will be given into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will burn it with fire. Fire cleanses and purifies. After all of these people, right? After all of their bodies will be laid waste in the land, then it says that Nebuchadnezzar is going to burn the city by fire. The land has been defiled. And how is he going to cleanse it? By taking life for life. And then it's going to be set to fire so that it purifies the land, so that the land could rest because its own people defiled it. Do you see this full circle? Now let's skip down to verse 16. See, I am against you, O inhabitant of the valley, O rocky plain, says Yahuah. You men who say, who shall come down against us, or who shall enter our dwellings? But I will punish you according to the fruit of your deeds, says Yahuah. And I will kindle a fire in the forest, and it will devour all things around it. He is going to purify the defiled place of his house. Y'all, and this is a picture of what happens in the very end. After the 1,000 years of the millennial reign of our Messiah, Satan will be released, right? And he is going to tempt whatever flesh is upon the earth, right? Those who do not want to obey the King Messiah. And then he's going to rally them up. And what is that going to be called? The battle of Gog and Magog. And once they come against the city of Jerusalem, it says that fire comes down from heaven, which is from the Father, and it's going to devour them, right? And then comes the great white throne of judgment, and all of those who denied Christ, before he came in the millennial reign and after that time, it says that they will be judged, right? They will be judged. The dead in hell will be brought up to the great white throne, and then they will be cast into the lake of fire. And then heaven and earth goes through a purification process of fire. Then and only then will the Father bring down New Jerusalem. Then and only then will he dwell amongst us, because he will not make his face shine or known amongst any sin. Everything must be purified by fire. Do you see the pictures of the old, of how it points us to the future of what is going to happen again, right? There's nothing new under the sun. The pattern of the old tells the story of what is going to happen in the very end. I hope you see the parallels. Deep and Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.